Hello, and welcome to the Factive Lounge podcast, your faculty development podcast for Dalhousie Medicine, New Brunswick. I'm Dr. Sarah Gander, and your host of the podcast. I have a very special guest today in a very timely manner because here it is as daylight savings time has jumped ahead and the maple syrup is flowing. And what that also means for our students, of course, is that match day is upon us. And so you should be listening to this launch just around the time of match day. And if you're listening to it later, all ideas still apply because this comes around every year. But here we are with Dr. Lisa Sutherland to talk about match day etiquette. So Lisa, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Great to be here.
Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your role at DMMB?
Sure, thanks. I'm a family doctor here in St. John. I've been here since most of my residency, 1990 to 92. That's a long time. And I've been at DMMB for coming up towards 5 years in the role of, it's now Assistant Dean of Student and Resident Affairs here. So certainly not anything I would have predicted when I was coming out of residency to be doing this kind of work, but it's a lovely alignment of kind of a family doctor approach, guidance counselor kind of stuff, and very, very much a team sport. So I have great colleagues at DMMB and at DMNS that I work with, and we work with our students, getting them from orientation day through to graduation and launch. And of course, with that comes match day. And we're fortunate here in New Brunswick to carry on working with residents. So we really enjoy that trajectory to follow them right through. But match day is absolutely a high stress time. So it's great to have an opportunity to chat about it.
Yeah, for sure. So do you offer some services to residents as well?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
We follow
Excellent.
the New Brunswick-based residents. So, and DMMB, of course, is distributed. So we have third-year students out in Miramichi, Moncton, Fredericton, Waterville. Did I miss anywhere? Miramichi, did I say that?
Yeah, Miramichi, Upper River Valley, right? Moncton.
And Fredericton. There we go.
And Fredericton are the LICs. And then St. John, it's still the kind of traditional block rotation.
Our block clerks, and we have residents currently based in Moncton, Fredericton, and St. John, and soon to come in Miramichi. So,
that's exciting.
Yeah, so we have site leads out at the teaching sites in student and resident affairs, which we work really close with as well. And it's as I said before, it's definitely a team sport to support these folks.
Oh, well, that's interesting too, because even like with the virtual world that we have now, you guys have people on the ground for some of those like distributed sites, which is really good because sometimes you just need that face-to-face.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we really appreciate it. And plus, they're really in touch with the local situations and dynamics and, really help to support our learners in these sites.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't the official topic today, but like our Factive Lounge sort of reboot 2.0, which is this series of podcasts of which you are the first official guest, is really about how DMMB has niched with the distributed sites. And like, we're a distributed site here in St. John, as sort of like this campus, but then our tentacles go out into all these other sites. And so as other sites, I know like with the announcement of the Cape Breton site in Nova Scotia, and then I have colleagues in Alberta that are like, working on sites in like Red Deer and things like this. I mean, part of this podcast is hopefully going to be the lessons learned and some of the advice that we've learned out of DMNB. And so there you go. Having some boots on the ground for student affairs is really, really important. It can't all be done by the central campus.
No, we're fortunate here to have this model working for us. And, especially when you consider a topic like match day, there are a lot of folks involved encountering learners along the way out at the sites and across the Maritimes for sure. And, we're about to have away electives come back too. So a lot of people involved in guiding our fourth-year students through to their match.
And another reason to try to get this sort of topic out there is that some of our students might even not be with us on match day. Is that possible?
That's right, yeah. So we gather up contact information, so we're ready to connect with them should that need arise. And we're pleased that this year again. I think we did it last year in a limited way during COVID. We'll have any students that want to come down to DMMB into the student lounge, and we'll have a little event for them. And then they organize their own event that we stay out of for that
As it
match
should be.
evening support. Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
may have
So
shown up to that event once or twice, but
perhaps.
only to purchase treats and then leave. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because it is an exciting time. It's one
yes,
of those like stressful energies that like has the potential for so much positivity and excitement, but there's that other side of it. And just so everybody knows, in the show notes, there's a really nice document that I guess I'll give you credit for, Lisa, too, but also the team at DMMB, like Angela Hogan, for helping put together. So it's a nice,
absolutely.
short one pager. That just is a little bit of a reminder about some of it's not all or none. It's not, I matched to a residency program or I didn't match to a residency program. There's that space in between of like all of the options that kind of come in between. I had sent out a little message to a few colleagues to sort of say, like, tell me your good and your bad about your like match day experiences, sort of anecdotally, because I feel like I have said out loud, and I have some shame about this, is sort of like it all works out in the end, and it'll be fine, and I actually do believe that in a big way, but it's just the timing of that isn't always great. So hearing the anecdotal stories of my colleagues, it's like, well, everything did kind of work out, but maybe they didn't feel that at the time.
For sure. It can take a little minute, and I think most learners will get something in their top three choices, and most will get the discipline of their choice. It may not be at the site or the program that they thought would be top shelf for them, but generally it works out. But it can take learners a little minute, and it's not just the learner that's involved. They have partners and families, and sometimes youngsters that need considering where they're going to land with this and create a whole new life for themselves. Whether it's going to be 2 years or 5, it's definitely a journey, and they're
Mm.
adults with a lot going on and a lot in mind. And there's also the consideration that they have for their mentors and those who've shown them along the way. And you have been a very, a very valued, strong mentor to many. And I know they're just as thrilled to say, I got what I got, da, 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 and share that with you because you're so integrally involved. But it's emotional for sure.
Yeah, I think it's emotional for us as mentors too, and not in a way that for any students listening to this, just to be clear, like I guess I can only speak for myself, but knowing, my colleagues are often very like-minded, you don't look at it as sort of failure or success. You kind of look at it as like, oh, okay, isn't that interesting? Because you
That's right.
appreciate that there's an algorithm and there's a process by which if anybody's listening who doesn't understand the process of the match, like we're matching our medical students to the residency programs in an algorithm whereby, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with the mythology of this, that it's supposed to work in the student's favor. Like
That's
they
right.
rank the places that they want to go, kind of 1 to infinity, and then the programs rank the people that they want for their spots, and then through some sort of mystical software it spits out where you're going for the next foreseeable
Absolutely.
future.
Yeah, you're right. It is mythical, and there's a lovely little um, animated video on the CaRMS, the Canadian Residency Matching
Okay.
Society website that walks you through how do these rank order lists work together. But it is CaRMS will go down fighting, saying it's all set up for the student side.
Right. And so I've certainly seen people go from having 3, 4, 5 maybe ranked places to an insane amount of places.
Yeah,
And so, one thing that I really liked about that handout that you guys did was sort of saying out loud what an enormous amount of work it is. Tell us about that, what you're seeing students do.
well, it's pretty huge. And, I think in the mindset of the student, it can start on day one of I'm coming to medical school and I think I'm going to be a whatever. and we try to keep them, as some of our colleagues will say, sort of undifferentiated stem cells at
At
the
the
outset.
pluripotency.
Yeah, to try to keep them open-minded, to rule things in and rule things out along the way. So all through their elective planning, whether it's Med 1 or 2, through their clerkship experiences in Med 3, and then in Med 3, they have to really build their Med 4 year, which is 18 weeks of electives, to try to steer towards a certain match result, career plan. We are really keen on parallel planning, which we can get into if you want to after.
Oh,
But it's,
yes.
yeah. So constructing that is a lot of work for the learners. They have a lot of legwork to do. They have a lot of support on the UGME side, and Student Affairs does a lot of legwork with them along the way as well. But the mental gymnastics that it takes for them to try to decide, I think I could be this, I think I could be that. Could these two things go together? In which case, if I don't get one, I will be well set up to try to go for the other. And then the application itself is a lot with doing their personal letters, 500 to 1,500 words to explain why they would be the candidate top shelf for that program. Gathering reference letters is another scary thing for learners, which they need 3 per program that they're going to apply to, and there's different criteria for that. Doing their CV, we help them with that. Doing research, community activities, volunteering, all these pieces that will come together to try to frame up that this looks like a good setup for them to go forward with that career. Yeah,
The
it's a
reference
lot.
letter thing kind of jumped out at me just because I've had my
Yes.
years of doing well, I think my record's 24, but some years 1,
Yeah.
never 0. Maybe when I was on maternity leave, I wasn't contacted, but, and again, those reference letters are something that I'm just thinking about the sort of obvious stress and work of things. And then I'm thinking of sort of that layered, sort of almost angst or trauma of the event where you have to sheepishly go and ask your mentor. Maybe you've only been with them for 2 weeks. So many practitioners have elective students work with several people because nobody, it's rare that people are in clinic all day every week and things like this. And so then you're going up and being so I was wondering if maybe you felt like you could, that sort of conversation is just sort of this added adversity to the whole
For sure.
process.
Yeah.
When the funny part is, I'm sure you agree, it's people wrote us reference letters. We're absolutely expecting it. There's
That's
no
right.
mystery to this speed dating process. We
Yeah,
totally get
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And so, I've just taken to the back because the adversity is on me too a little bit, just because I hate conflict so bad and I hate that moment of angst. So I just at day 1, I'm hey, I know you're going to ask me for a reference letter.
Let's
So
get this out of the way.
on the last day, let's
Yeah.
just have a conversation and make sure we have everything that we need, but maybe I'm too easy on them. Maybe they need to be coached to say hey, thank you for taking me for for this elective. I'm definitely going to be asking you for a reference letter at the end. So let's do this.
We do coach them to try to get out ahead of that early on, and it's that awkward thing of I hope we get along, and I hope you think I'm smart, and I hope you think I work hard, and would you think maybe you could write me a strong letter by the time we're done this? So it is uncomfortable for them, but we do emphasize, as you said, Sarah, that this is not your first rodeo, nor any teacher's first rodeo. You've done reference letters in spades along the way. And but we also encourage learners, if somebody says politely declines, then just keep on moving, whether their own life is too busy or something is not gelling, don't force the issue. Because what we don't
Right.
want going forward, of course, are reference letters that are just sort of, they showed up. That was good.
Right.
This is like liquid gold for them. They need to be strong letters, and
Oh my gosh,
it's
the best letters I ever wrote were the year that I had the most, actually. And I was in Halifax doing something I can't even remember. And I went to drive back to St. John and I got hit at a snowstorm and I had to stop in Truro and stay for the night. And of course, I had left it to the last minute. And so, for any students who listen to this, I'm so sorry if I did this to you, but I did leave it to the last minute. And I just said to myself, I have 24 letters to write in
wow.
that evening, and I had to do it. I
Uh-huh.
had to do it.
The
So
inspiration came.
well, I went to the grocery store and I got some snacks. I got a hotel in Truro, and I had my laptop there. And for every 4 letters I wrote, I could write or I could watch an episode of Scandal because it was new at
There
that
you go.
time, and that was my reward. And that was the year I actually got a call from my colleague at UBC who said, Sarah, that was the best reference letter I've ever read in my life. I was like, yes.
That is super fun.
And that person is now a pediatrician. So I'm like,
There you
all
go.
right.
See, who knew Truro was a writer's retreat?
Right. So for all of you Halifax faculty, if you just need to go up the road for a bit, then that is like, it'll be your muse.
Yeah.
No, I think you just have to focus. It's just really important that we carve the time and hold the space for that.
Yeah. And tagging the hard work to the reward piece is an excellent nugget as well, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. And so we talked about the time and the effort and all that stuff, but there's also like such a cost, hey? Maybe people forget how much it costs.
Yeah.
Because do you not have to pay for like each site that you apply for?
Yeah, the actual cost of going in through CaRMS is better than it used to be. There's been some headway on that. I think more of the cost comes from doing the mid 4 year, where you're paying tuition and you're also potentially traveling and staying in various places because you have 18 weeks of electives. They're done usually 2 weeks at a time, and with COVID, all of the electives have been homeschool only. So for Dalhousie students, that's been PEI, New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. But Airbnbs, gas, food, all of that stuff, most students did not stay in, a single apartment in St. John and go to school for that year. So that expense is not small. And then when you add back in the visiting electives where students will be able to go to other schools, our current third year class are in the mix of getting underway with those plans. So that takes the cost up significantly as well with travel and housing across the country. Now, thankfully, one cost piece that's come out of it are the interview costs. So
I was just going to say, because then like in my day, then you did it all again if you got interviews in those locations.
Yeah. So saving the planet and saving the dollars by having virtual interviews for CaRMS. So
love that.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you think, because it's been virtual interviews for a couple of years now, do you get the sense that it's same difference or just like a new frontier and people need to develop a new skill set, how to interview virtually? Or
I think that the learners now are pretty used to interacting on screen,
Yeah,
so
good point.
Yeah, so if it's the ones that I think they have had a little bit more of a challenging time are the pre-recorded, but even with that, they're pretty used to practicing in front of a video and getting their talking points down. So I think that
some of them would have interviewed for med school like that, right?
Exactly. So MMI's the mini multiple interview thing has been virtual for the last couple of years as well. So I think that the skills will be there to manage those interviews. Yeah.
People have to do pre-recorded interviews? Like what, do they have to answer a series of questions or something?
Yeah. Well, very few are done that way. And I think that may be ending after this year. So
okay. All right. Okay, so your electives are done, your application's done, your interviews are done, and then you
wait.
Calmly, not so calmly, wait.
You do, and I guess what they have to do after interview period is work on their rank order lists, so they have a little bit of time to sort out, okay, I've had that experience, I met the people at that program, I went to the social, I talked to the residents, do I really want to go to Calgary? Do I want to stay local? Where do I think I want to go? And so they have to stack those all up and submit that rank order list, which was last week.
Lisa, what do you tell them when they're stuck? What do you tell them when they come and they say, I know I can't, like, because maybe, 5 to 20, if that's what you're doing, is easier than 1 to 5, maybe, or 1 to 3 even.
Yeah, I think we talk it through. They're interesting discussions for sure, and learners have a lot to consider. It's what are their supports? How close do they feel they need their people around them? Again, with COVID, folks have gained a lot of skills with recharging via a Zoom call. So, I try to suggest let's not be afraid about going out and away and trying some new places. But people have their own situations, so we just have to try to get to what matters to them, and that they're actually going through that decision tree with the people that are closest to them, that are really going to be part of that equation.
Yeah. I always think like the gut comes into it a little bit. Like there's an intuition to that.
Yeah.
That, like my husband wanted to stay in the Maritimes and I had the most positive experience at in Ontario, and I had done all my training on the East Coast, and I knew I wanted to come home. And so there was kind of that logic of you should kind of go away for a bit and then come
Right.
back, like just sort of
Yep.
diversify your experience,
Yep.
which isn't for everybody. And so
Right.
there's, a million ways to do it. And they're all right. But yeah, I used my gut on that one. It was like that kind of 1, 2, 3. It was like there was good reasons to do all the things. But then it was like, but where do I want to be,
Yeah.
for the next 4 years?
Right. Yeah.
And
And
it
it
worked out,
goes by
which
in
is
a
good.
blink, which is hard for.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's that hindsight stuff where you're just like, we sound old, right? We're like, oh my God. It's like it goes by so fast, but it does. But
Yeah.
you do want to be in a place where you feel comfortable because residency is a grind and
It's
it
very
is the
intense.
trenches.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So here they are. They're doing their rank list. And now here we are looming into March 22nd, which is the big day. What does that look like for DMMB? Because, am I allowed to say out loud that you guys get kind of told the day before or something that
Sure.
if there are people who are unmatched? I think everybody kind of knows that, but I didn't know if that was
Yep.
like an urban legend.
Oh no, that's reality. The learners all know. The schools across the country know. So there is a pre-match day on March 21st. It's always the day before the real match day. And
Is that the Ides of March? I forget my Shakespeare. What are the
I don't
Ides
know,
of?
but that's not a good
No,
thing.
okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to look that up after.
It is something the learners can opt in to or opt out. And so if
I didn't know that.
and honestly, it's almost everybody, if not all, that opt in to say, okay, if I do go unmatched, please give me a call on that day so that I'm able to prepare myself and decide if I want to come down and be with the class or just be with my own people, or what exactly if I get news that's difficult, right?
So people are sitting by their phones on the 21st too, really, aren't they?
They are, yes, starting at 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, do you know what time? Is it always the same time?
It is the same time. So the undergrad team at DMNS has login information, and we gather and get this news and reach out to any learners that we need to advise of this and start supporting them right out of the gate if we need to.
That's amazing.
And then the similar thing happens on match day. The students can open their news at 1 o'clock, and that's the same time that we can open it as well. So then we're starting to see, oh, wow, okay, here's all the moving pieces. Here where the people are going. And for us at DMMB, we are in short order getting in touch with our DMNS colleagues as well, just to see how our teams are doing, because there's a fair bit of investment in that too, and find out what the news is and how can we all support each other along the way, especially with the learners.
Yeah. So, I guess match day etiquette is our topic, and a very clear piece of etiquette would be to be mindful of both of those days and both of those times. Clinic often starts at 1 o'clock. I guess our learners, if they're with us, aren't necessarily going to be focused, but
right. And I think match time has now fallen into when the students are back on campus for Peer 4 sessions. So they'll be finished electives by then. They do come back to campus, both campuses, March 20th for peer sessions, and the UGME side tends to keep match afternoon free for them without training sessions.
Not a lot of learning going on in that kind of.
Nope, there's not a lot of focus.
I think we're all clear on the pedagogy of that situation.
Yeah,
thank goodness.
And there's some consideration of the pre-match time as well with scheduling, but yeah.
So is this kind of like a we all remember where we were when Diana died kind of situation? Like, do you remember where you were when you found out where you were matched to?
No, I don't.
Really?
It's a long time ago, Sarah. I really don't.
It wasn't that long, but it's one of those sentinel things. It's like,
no idea.
No? Mm-mm. Oh my gosh. No. Okay. You're probably just more regulated than I am, like emotionally. You're like, oh, it'll be fine either way.
I don't know. Well, I was after family medicine and Dalhousie. I grew up in Halifax and I went to Dal for my biology degree and for medical school. And I think I want to stay at Dal. And, life circumstances and finances were such that made the most sense to me. And it worked. So
amazing.
It was
and
a
we're
different
so lucky
time.
to have you.
Oh, well, that's kind. But it really was a different time, and I wasn't after anything that was in my mind, super high stakes at that time, which is a
Okay.
different world than many of our learners right now.
Yeah. I definitely remember where I was because I
Awesome.
was in Clinic 2 at the St. John Regional Hospital on elective with the pediatrics department. So these are my people that I
Yes.
wanted a job with, that trained me, that wrote reference letters for me. So I remember Todd Lambert and I were seeing a consult for hemihypertrophy, and it turned to be 1 o'clock or whatever the time was at the time. And he was like, check. I'm like, I am not checking. Like, I am not checking here with you people. You're crazy. It's not happening. He's like, check. And he like bullied me into checking. And I'm saying this laughing because it was fine. And Todd,
Can't
I
use that
adore
word.
Todd. Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, Todd. He's like, he's
You're gonna write them up.
like, he's like the dean for Memorial now. He did
Yeah.
not bully me.
Okay.
He gently
Clearly.
encouraged me with a supportive nature to check, and there it was, the choice that I really wanted, which was Queens, and that's where he had gone, and so he had encouraged me to go there on elective. So it was actually a very positive moment. Could have gone wrong in retrospect and been a very miserable afternoon. So I will count my blessings there. Um, and now I feel like I've called Todd out for like poor match day etiquette, but like he was like a big brother to me, so I feel like it was okay.
Yeah,
Now
he
I'm going to
can
have to
take
cut
it.
this all out. He can take it. I love you, Todd. You're wonderful.
He's a great mentor.
He is. So I think, though, that when we're thinking about match day for our students, words really matter. Hey,
Yeah, they
like
do, and
that's.
it's tricky. And you know what? Honestly, when I came into this role, I was not intimately involved with anybody else's match day. So I was all, oh wow, wait, great, yeah.
Yeah,
And
right.
it is that way for a lot of folks, but it also can take them a little minute, even if they have landed in the discipline of their choice. But perhaps it's a program that they thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to do some little mental work here to get sorted on settling into
Process
that
it.
community. Yeah, so it's tricky for those who are a little bit more peripheral to it, and maybe coming on campus the week after in those training sessions that we have during Peer 4 to, show up in the room and say, okay, match day, everybody get their first choice. We don't say that.
Mm,
It's a
mm-hmm.
little tender. So, I'm not after coddling the learners and overprotecting them, but I think we have to understand these are really life-changing decisions that are happening, and they don't have a lot of control. And I suppose there are many professions right now where folks don't have a lot of control of what their next step will be. They have to go where the work is, and
Mm.
that's part of it. But this with CaRMS, it's contract. Once you get that match, you are obliged to go. So,
Yes, and there's almost like an aggression to that positivity or something. Like it maybe we come at that with our own experience, like if you've had an experience or say you've gone unmatched yourself or there was a tumultuousness to your match experience, then we always bring our own stuff to the table. So like, are you going at it with like, hey, how did everything go, or like if you need anything, then please reach out to me. We've had our own experience. And if we're not sort of checking ourselves before we go into there and like, I just relayed my positive experience. It's like, hey, awesome, because it was so exciting. I mean, I wasn't married yet. I didn't have kids. Like, I was a lone wolf. Like, I mean, my husband went with me, but we just, we were excited for a new adventure, and so came at that from a very kind of privileged place, whereas like you said before, a lot of people are coming at it. I mean, I think there'd be even time to process the joy of that. We're not
oh
very good
yeah,
at processing joy either,
yeah.
right? Like that all of a sudden you're like, oh, something must have gone wrong, I got what I wanted, or like I'm not worthy, kind of thing.
There's so much anticipation and build up, and did I do all the right steps? Did I press the right buttons? Did I submit the right thing? Is it all going to come out of the computer in the right way? And
Mm-hmm.
so just that kind of okay, that's it. Now I can start to absorb this and get on the hustle of doing all the paperwork to get ready to actually be a resident. And then that
Right.
magical transformation that happens on July 1st when now you're in charge because you're Dr. So and
Oh
so on
God.
call. Yeah, so that comes at them pretty fast afterwards too.
We didn't even talk about couples matching, because
Right.
like let's put that extra spice on top of the
Right. Yeah.
dish. Like,
Yeah.
like say you get your spot. But like
Yes.
I've seen couples match that they've listed like a crazy amount of spaces, like are
Hmm.
possibilities. And those include even like one person chooses not to be matched,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot
which
of
is, I think, really brave.
it really is. I mean, most learners are not going to be couples matching, which simplifies things to a little degree.
Hmm.
But those who are, it really takes some thinking through, and especially if they're going for two different disciplines, then that can make it more complex as well.
Right. Because you're like, yay, I got what I wanted. And then you look at your person and you're like, ugh, now we can have your feelings.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, but hopefully
Which are,
they've done some prep work for that to get back to that stem cell thing. What could I see myself being, this or that? Okay, well, let's. What matters to us is that we're going wherever we're going together, and that would have been the piece that led to such, a ledger for them
yeah,
of what they're going to go
absolutely.
for. Yeah.
So the students find out about their match, and then they like to have a little bit of celebratory time afterwards. Which I have to admit, like I indulge in some of the like pictures they post and stuff
Right.
because it's just like their shirts and they write it
Uh-huh.
anyway, and it
Yeah.
is kind of fun to see because it is so largely positive and celebratory at least for that time.
That's right. Yeah.
So that is nice to be a part of. Are faculty meant to like or allowed to come to the like school
Hmm.
get
Yeah.
together and pop their heads in, or is that not
They
cool?
no, they would be, Sarah. It's been pretty tight with COVID
Oh,
last
sure.
year. Last year we were in the lounge for the first time since COVID finished. Well, restrictions finished. The year before, we had pretty much a drive-through match afternoon where they could go to station to station, have their picture taken by the map, get a, swag bag, and keep on moving, get their T-shirt out the door. Bye bye. Um, and yeah, so this year we'll be back in the lounge, the student lounge downstairs at DMNB, and we'll have some time with the learners. And yes, staff and faculty would be welcome to drop by and
Oh,
say
that's so
hello. Yeah.
nice. So, and then the students who go unmatched, then, like, I think it's important for faculty to know sort of like what that tight turnaround is for them to either, decide to go into the second match, or perhaps like the other thing is that alternatively you can forego the second match,
Mm,
correct? And then choose the fifth year or no?
yeah, it's not quite the way we put it.
Okay,
There,
sorry.
that's okay.
That's the way I
Um,
think of it.
some schools probably use that language more than we do. At Dalhousie, the intention is that you should be looking at a second match and trying to see what could a pivot be for you. Is there something there that you could get your head around,
Hmm.
applying to and getting sorted on? And then if that didn't work out, we look at the med 5 year. So, that there's a lot of variation in what that actually looks like when you're dealing with an individual learner. But
Hmm.
the turnaround is very tight for second match. I think the deadline for applications this year is April 3rd, where you're finding out on it on March 22nd that you didn't match. And, later that day into the next day, we have the official list from postgrad offices about and CaRMS about what spots there are available, what
Hmm.
disciplines, what schools.
Which is different
And
every year, hey? Like there's
oh
themes,
yeah.
isn't there? Like the
Oh,
years that there's been pediatrics unmatched spots, it's just been so interesting. And like the first year of COVID, I think there were spots left over at NASM, which is like an excellent, excellent program and would
for
be
sure.
like so amazing. And I blame the fact that if people can't go there, then sometimes they can't wrap their heads around it. Like not like the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. So you're like in Thunder Bay or you're in one of their distributed sites. And maybe that's hard for people to imagine if they weren't able to go for an elective. But
Yeah, it was an interesting year because we had a lot of chatter from learners about, well, what if I go there and I can never get out, because travel restrictions were still fairly
it's a good
significant.
call.
So landing at a school that was away, away, away without any capacity to go province to province easily was also an issue. Yeah.
But Lisa, the elephant in the room is always, can you change once you get there?
To transfer programs once you're in
I
residency, you
know,
mean?
right? We
Yeah,
all know people who have done
it's
it.
tricky. It's not easy to do. There are a few avenues to do it, but even any conversations about that don't really happen. I mean, they might happen with resident affairs. I we do that. But from a postgrad office point of view, they don't start to entertain those discussions until January of the first year of residency. So, they try to get settled, get into the groove, see if maybe it's not quite as difficult as you thought it was going to be, and then you can see if there's capacity to transfer within your university. Current residents can also go into the second round match in a given year,
Oh,
but
I
there
didn't
you
know
know
that.
there are a lot of regulations around that. Like, you can't do that if you're in your second year of family medicine residency because you're that close to finishing and stuff. So
Oh,
yeah, so there
I
are a
didn't
lot of
know
little
that.
bits to transferring, and it's tricky.
Yeah, and it's all like stuff that students don't hear a lot about, like funding models and like
Yeah,
spots that you've been given and like
that's
different
right.
universities. It's not like people are just because the logic would be like, well, we want lots of doctors and we need more whatever.
Hmm.
But it costs a lot of money to train people, and that's a finite pot for different postgraduate departments and whatnot.
For sure. And the postgrad departments have to figure out all those quota things with the provincial governments and such. So that's a whole other
Yeah, let alone the
basket that.
international medical graduate
Uh-huh.
situation that's happening.
Hmm.
Is that still part of the second match or is that a separate stream?
Second match for sure. Um, I was looking at that this morning thinking, oh, Sarah's probably going to ask me about
Oh
IMG
yeah,
stuff.
sorry. Like, well,
But
and what I remember was is that you could like that there were particular international medical graduate spots for a
yes,
postgraduate program, and that was a match that happened on its own. But then IMGs, if that's still an acceptable term, would go into the second. Or were eligible, I guess, would be the
for the
term for
second
the
round.
second match.
Yeah.
Yeah, we skipped over the parallel
Oh,
advice
yes.
career plan.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
So that is the concept of it's a little less critical for family medicine because the quota is good for family medicine. There are more seats available per year typically than applicants, so you have a good chance of getting in if you're after family medicine. If you're looking at a specialty where there are a limited number of seats across the country, then the advice is you probably should have a parallel plan to something that's going to be a little less tight to get into. But the tricky part can be how do you pitch yourself to look as if you're all in for that subspecialty or specialty, and as well look palatable to, say, a family medicine program, and not be obvious to the family medicine people of, well, they really want to be a something something, but they're sort of trying family medicine too. So those
Yeah, like you're
are,
my backup.
yeah, so backup versus parallel plan. Trying
Oh,
to,
parallel plan is the language we like. I see.
well, it's a nuance.
Oh, it's
But
important though because it actually has like it has a completely different meaning.
it does.
Because
It's
students will look you straight in the eye and like they're not applying to peds, so they don't know me any other truth,
yeah,
and they'll say like, no, I want to be a I don't know what's a good example. Well, I think a couple months ago, I had a student who's like, I'm very interested in radiology. I'm going to give it a go. I think I really enjoy that. I also think I would be a really good family doctor and would take a lot of pride in having that in a career. And it was
right.
like such a professional way of saying like, that is
Yeah.
my parallel plan. And I'm like, right on. But then you have people who are like, I want to
Yes.
do this and they're
Yes.
going to make me do family medicine because, and Lisa, this is supposed to be an edgy podcast. I'm just going to
Right.
say it out loud because schools don't like to have high unmatched numbers, right? So that's part of a little bit of the
Uh-huh.
like cynicism of the parallel plan.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? We're like, it's I think our job as a school writ large is to try to
Yeah.
get good
Yeah.
doctors out there working. It's not so much about are you going to match on first, second, or fifth try or whatever, but it is not fun to go unmatched or have to do a med 5. It is extremely taxing personally. It is costly financially for the
Hmm.
individuals who are doing it. And it is really intense. So, if you, the more um, typical a trajectory you can follow, I think the better for your own health. And then we're feeding that pipeline of having individuals come out and be able to help their communities
Yeah.
and practice medicine. So I'm not looking at a scorecard or a gold medal to get a high match rate. These are humans who are trying to work
Hmm.
super, super hard, and that's their goal. So we're
Right. And
alongside
again,
with
at the
that.
risk of it being not the proper match day etiquette, I do find over time that even when students are disappointed, they tend to settle in a place. It's almost like the universe does provide, like, or they themselves have enough positivity that they're able to make things work and see the positive, because it is such a tough decision. So it's almost like, is there a perfect right? Probably not. And so then finding these opportunities that present themselves, which largely, if you're going to use the backup word or the parallel, can be something that's, has a different quota, like family medicine. But, you know, what an honor to be like a good family doctor is an amazing, amazing service to the community and has enormous pride as a career. Well, I think so, because I see the fruits of that, with good quality family care. Because as a pediatrician, the whole family is still your patient, so you see a lot of that need for that good primary care. I remember when, it makes no sense to say the smartest, but a very accomplished, very intelligent, could have done whatever she wanted sort of person in my graduating class. There was a lot of pressure to do the fancy,
Right.
I think it was endocrinology, like, oh, I'm going to do internal medicine and then subspecialize in endo. And then maybe I'm really into, like, I don't know, some subspecialty of endocrinology or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
However, but her heart, like, again, when she got down to her gut and her intuition, she's like, I want to be a family doctor in my community in Newfoundland.
Wonderful.
And that's what she chose. And she is that, and she's amazing. And it's been a wonderful life. And so it's like that match day moment there's so many external and internal influences.
Yes.
And then the minute you graduate, like, you don't even talk to those people very, maybe ever again. So, like, who cares what they think?
It's really what
Right?
matters for you. And I think
Totally.
the zigzags that learners can have, from mid 1 to 4 and then through the match process are huge. And I say to my own kids, it's okay. You don't have to go straight from point A to point B. You can go all kinds of ways in and around it and get to somewhere. All of it will inform who you are and how you're going to be with people along the way. We've seen some absolutely astounding growth with folks
Mm.
adjusting to match news, whether it's the first match and what they've come to, or a second round match, or even journeying through Med 5. Like, completely incredible growth
Yeah, and a
that
testament
learners
to
take
their
up.
ability to be vulnerable and their
Hmm.
courage.
Yeah.
And then the opportunities that are out there that you could make it to be, as if every family doctor practices the same,
Oh,
right?
yeah. No.
The opportunities within specialties are so
Yeah.
endless. Like, there are
Yeah.
specialties I didn't even know about.
Right.
Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I had no idea about community medicine,
Yeah. Yeah, and
public
that's
health
some of the
even.
wonder of Med 4 is we try to suggest, like, this isn't just about um, a direct line to CaRMS and what your match will be. Put some things in there that are of interest to you, that you maybe just got a little taste of in third year, and you think, oh, I'd like to know more of what they do, because perhaps I'll collaborate with them, or perhaps I'll put some of that
Right.
towards my own practice. So get out and around, and it's structured in Mid 4 that they have to do some interprofessional work, they have to do some non-tertiary work. So it's trying to get a sprinkling of a whole variety of things that could be in medicine. Help sort that career plan and be ready to be a good resident, and hopefully have a
Yeah,
really exciting year. Most really enjoy the fourth year. Aside from the
absolutely.
work, their hobby at night, every night, of CARMS and uploading all their Excel sheets and whatnot, I think it's a really interesting journey for them.
Do you have a message for faculty to stay well during match day?
For faculty to stay well during match day,
Because it is a small piece of us. We
for
do
sure.
take the time and energy and emotional investment in
Yeah,
the students, and
yeah. I think self-compassion,
yeah,
kindness, those
always.
those would be my, general mantras of anything to pull on when there's a hard day. And that
Hmm.
there are a lot of pieces here that folks don't have control of, and each one of us is only one little nudge along the way for these learners that I think back to that team sport thing. Don't take it all on yourself. If you think your learner that you've mentored and whatnot has not come to the place that they want to be, it's not on you, but open that conversation with them about how you've gotten through some difficult times too. When they're ready, make the offer. Yeah.
So maybe we'll just close with another shout out to the handout on match day etiquette and how important it is to be mindful of the time and how complex it is for our learners. And then also just use that to be an opportunity to just, again, kind of reflect on our own experiences and what we bring to the table. And I'd like to really thank Lisa for being here for this podcast today as we enter into kind of our new clump of FacDev Lounge podcasts. And any closing words from you, Lisa? Thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for the opportunity to chat about this. And certainly shout out to FacDev at DMMB, Lisa Searle and Angela Hogan, who helped put that document together. We chatted about it a good few times, and Angela came back around to it this year saying, should we get that thing out? I'm like, yeah, sure. Here's some talking points. Turn it into something that makes sense. So I think collectively we will do what we can to celebrate and support our learners along the way. So thanks, Sarah.
Okay. And if you're listening to this in the spring of 2023, Match Day, March 22nd. Thank you for listening to the FacDev Lounge podcast. Please leave us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or SoundCloud, and even a comment on some ideas for future podcasts. Thank you very much and have a great day.